This is Shubhrakash, and today you will study here with me Hornbill's fourth lesson, Landscape of the Soul. It is written by Nathalie Trevorroy. Students, the story has a kind of spirituality and also realism. The difference between them is described here. Two art forms are there, that is, first one is Chinese art form and the second one is the European art form. These two different places of the word describes different art forms. As Chinese art form has a spirituality which has no angle of watching or looking at the painting art form, while the European paintings or art form has a particular angle of seeing it, because you have to see through the eyes of the painter. But in the Chinese art form, you don't need any kind of angle to see. Whatever the interpretation you have your own ideas, you have your own notion, you will predict through the notion to the painting, and you will create your own interpretation through that notion. Students, two stories are described here about Chinese art forms. The first one is of a Tang Emperor Zhuangzong, who hired a painter Wu Daozi to paint a beautiful art form on the walls of his palace. Wu Daozi enthusiastically prepared a wall painting of a landscape. In that landscape, there were beautiful mountains, trees, birds, caves, valleys, and all the things which nature has. After preparing the painting, the painter asked the emperor to see the painting. The emperor was astonished when the painter said that I will show you the way to see. And the painter enters the cave, and after him the gate of the cave closes and he disappears from there only, and he could not be found again in the world. This is how the spirituality shown in the art form of the Chinese painting. In China, there are many stories, many spiritualities are taught to the children through the books of the academics, and there is a lot of such things which they prove through the stories. There is another story of a Chinese painter who paints a dragon, and he haven't painted the eye of the dragon because he thought that he had a kind of fear in his mind that if he would draw the eye of the dragon, then it would fly from there, from the painting. And you can sense that there is such level of spirituality in the minds, in the heart of the painters of the China. So such spirituality can be seen in the art forms also. Now students, opposite to the spiritualism, there is a realism also. In another story of a European art form, a blacksmith, Quentin Matsys, fell in love with a painter's daughter. The the painter was not in the mood of uh, letting him marry to his daughter, because he was not a painter and he wanted her daughter to marry with a person who is a painter. So one night the blacksmith went to the workplace of the painter and he drew at a slate a beautiful, real, lifelike housefly at the tray. First, when the painter saw the painting of the housefly, he thought it to be the real and flee wanted it to flee from there. But he found that it was just a painting. He was very much impressed from the blacksmith and he arranged marriage of her daughter with the blacksmith. The spirituality which the Chinese art form has raised the thought of San Shui. The word San Shui means the mountain water. In Taoism, there is an ideology which says that the mountain, which is called to be yang, and the water is to be called yin. Yang is the vertical and it is upward high, while the water, that is yin, is moist and horizontal. Yang, which is the form of mountain, is forming masculine gender, and the yin, which is water, form feminine gender. So in the ideology of Taoism, it is thought that the word is formed, the ideology, the thinking which the spirituality they has is formed through that only, means through the San Shui. Apart from this Chinese art forms, there is something extra also. It is coined in the heading that getting inside outsider art. A French painter, Jean Dubuffet, coined a term of brute art, which means the person who has no formal education of art forms, he has no right to form any kind of art or painting. Against this thought, Nek Chand, who formed rock garden at Chandigarh, it is in the Chandigarh, and he proved it to be wrong because he had no formal education of painting or any art form, and by utilizing the various things which were used and they were useless, or you can say the waste material. So by using the waste material, Mr. Nek Chand prepared the rock garden and the symbol of art form. He used the waste material to prepare the statues, and everything which is there is made up of that waste materials. So students, these all things were elaborated in your chapter, and hopefully you will have understood the theme of the lesson, that is the spirituality of the art form. And moreover, there are various forms of arts throughout the world, and uh, such like frescoes, and there were many famous painters also. So you will read about them also, and this was all about the lesson.